starting in ecology and then end up spending my entire career developing pesticides. If you taste the nutrient-dense fruit first, the flavor's explosive. It literally goes up through your sinuses and out the top of your head. I thought 100% increase would be a dream, and it's 800%. I looked at it because of economic reasons. And then when I started researching it, I literally fell into the whole regenerative world and was absolutely overwhelmed. So I spent a year researching every aspect of regenerative agriculture. And basically, I got another master's degree before I ever planted a tree.
This is the Investing in Regenerative Agriculture and Food podcast, where we learn more on how to put money to work to regenerate soil, people, local communities, and ecosystems, while making an appropriate and fair return. Welcome to another episode. After 36 years in the chemical industry, he retired and bought a small farm in Georgia, which is where things got a bit out of hand because he's now a regenerative organic citrus grower and just had his fruit tested on nutrient density. And it's safe to say that the results were interesting. And that's definitely an understatement. Welcome, Herb.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Appreciate it, Koen.
And we're going to unpack a lot of that, but I want to start with a personal question we always love to ask. And we're going to talk obviously about your pre-retirement, although it sounds like you're pretty busy, let's say post-retirement as well.
Yeah.
How did you roll into the food and agriculture space? How come you're spending most of your waking hours thinking about food and ag? And we'll get to the transition, all of that. But what did it start to begin with? How come your career was in food and ag as well?
It's really, I love the science. So I started out in biology and actually became interested in ecology. So it's amazing I've come full circle. And then I discovered agricultural ecology, and I grew up working a little bit on a farm. And so agronomy was a wonderful major in college. And then I worked on a research farm, and I loved the science of it. So I went on to grad school in plant pathology. And just the whole research side is wonderful to me, proving what you're trying to show. And once you start in the ag chem industry, it captivates you and you're drawn in. And amazingly, starting in ecology and then end up spending my entire career developing pesticides.
And so, were there any doubts or any voices in your head of the ecological past?
No, it's amazing. The entire industry is very sincere. All we believed is that the goal every day was to help farmers and to feed the world. And there is no discussion in the industrial ag world about damage that we might be doing, that tillage and synthetic fertilizer and pesticides could be causing as much damage. I even had soil microbiology in graduate school, and there's not discussion of beneficial microbes. It's all about the pest. So everything is geared that way. And I would say defending that industry, they all believe they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, because often in the regen space, it's about this anti or the tension there with the chemical industry. And I've never believed in the big conspiracy side, etc. I think there are many people like you and probably all of your colleagues or most of your colleagues and other people in the space that generally think they're working towards feeding the world and generally think they're doing the right thing. And in that narrative, it might be the right thing. It's narrow, let's say, but so how do we communicate with that world, or how do we engage this is a very big question, but as a regen space in a better, more constructive way? Because I don't think we've done that until now.
That is the huge question. I've been able to do it on a very small scale because I had a small crop. This was my very first year of harvest. I spent a lot of money to do the nutrient analysis and was absolutely shocked. I hoped to get maybe 50% increase or 100, and it was 800%.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And it supported everything that when I got into it, I literally discovered the whole soil microbe, the ecosystem, and became passionate about it. That was going to make a difference. I'm using that to grow the tree. My research background I'm researching everything I do. So I have my farm looks like a research farm. It's got replicated trials, flags everywhere. And I shipped off 4 boxes of fruit and soil to get data analysis yesterday. It's become almost an obsession now that I've realized after so many years working only to control pests, now realizing that the system is already in place naturally to control the pests, and we're just not using it. So that's now
And
what I've
is that
tried
the
to
key
compensate.
then, or the potential angle is the science piece and researching the H out of it? Like, how do you to show that this is a science question and a science endeavor, and you can go as deep in the rabbit hole of the soil food web as you can go into the pesticide side of things?
I think it is the science. My reason for doing the research is because the ag chem industry taught me to do that. If you can't do replicated trials and statistically analyze them, then don't believe it. So lots of pretty pictures. Oh, this field across the road didn't do well. That's not compelling enough for me. So I'm trying to, even as an individual grower, I'm trying to prove. Actually, I'm excited for this year. I just got a support from the Kiss the Ground group to analyze nutrient density in the fruit, which I've already done, but actually link it to the soil. So I'm doing the soil DNA, Haney soil health. So trying to indisputably prove that there's a link between the two. If we fix this, then this becomes healthy. So it's now, I guess, what I'm trying to prove even more than just marketing fruit and growing it.
And what do your former colleagues think of your endeavor if you're still in touch with them?
They really disregard it. One came to my farm, and he's the fertilizer specialist for the University of Georgia. Most of my close friends were professors. I contracted out research for big ag. And he said, I think you can solve these problems. We just need some NPK, 10-10-10. We can put enough on here to solve this. And I just can't convince them. No, that's killing everything that I'm trying to do. So, and herbicide, I have cover crops, trunk to trunk, which is
Unheard
outrageous.
of.
My field doesn't look like anybody else's. It looks, gosh, it's beautiful. It's knee-deep clover and hairy vetch and cereal rye and black oats. It's amazing right now. And that's feeding the microbes. Everything I'm doing, and some people will say it, we're farming microbes. And that is actually what I'm doing. Instead of fertilizing 2 or 3 times a year, I fertilize 20 because I feed the tree and then I feed the microbes. Every 2 weeks, it's alternated, the tree, the microbes. And then the microbes in turn become prosperous and provide the nutrition that the tree needs. And I believe absolutely that's where the nutrient density comes from. And that's what I'm trying to validate. You asked originally, how do we communicate this? And think we need the credible information for people to believe. It's too easy for big ag with billions of dollars behind them to just discredit the organic movement and now the regenerative movement. And so and they do have billions and billions of dollars behind them in research. I was that guy. That's part of my job, to fund all the university research that proved what we wanted to say, proved our message. The pesticides work. And there's not the funding. I think that's one of the big obstacles right now is
research.
Yeah, and even government support programs which prop up. And I'm no expert in those, but they prop up row crop, the industrial approach to farming, and there's not any support for what I'm doing. Very limited. And maybe here in the U.S., we got a glimmer of hope that maybe there's a little bit of mindset because the health crisis, and it's much worse here in the U.S. than it is in Europe. The health crisis is unbelievable. And I believe it's actually, now I'm convinced that it's linked to our food. I was more surprised than anybody when I sent my fruit off for an
Why did you decide to
analysis.
do it? If you did you have a
It's
hunch of a difference, or did you were like decide actually to prove that it wasn't different?
it's a funny story. The university contacted. There's a citrus specialist who's sympathetic to organic production, and I do some trials with him in my field. And he called me and he said, "Hey, Herb, we've got a grant to do nutritional analysis. And if we can compare it with a conventional growth." And I got excited. I thought, wow, that's a great idea. So I went out and found the groves that had exactly the same fruit, and I sampled them the same day as mine. I treated them exactly the same, juiced it, froze it, had all the samples ready. And then I went and did it to another grove, different kind of fruit. And so months and months went by, and I kept asking for the funding to do the nutrient. It's incredible. $1,400 a sample.
Wow.
And I had a freezer full of samples. And so finally one day he called me and he said, the grant fell through. I waited a long time, and finally I decided if I'm really going to prove this, I just need to do it myself. So
You said a funny story, but this is
probably-
an expensive story. Yeah.
it was an expensive story. It ate up any profit that I might have made here my first year. So that was last year. I sent them off, got analysis. And like I said, I was more surprised than anybody. I thought 100% increase would be a dream. And it's 800%. I've even changed the way I eat. Since getting those results back, I've started shopping for organic produce. And even beyond that, going to a farmer's market and getting regenerative produce. That's here in the US, that's our best way to ensure that we're getting nutrient dense food is buy it from the farmer.
And
I realize everybody can't do that.
no, but I think what we often discuss it here, there is a big group that could and isn't yet. So let's target them first, that has the availability
right.
and is shopping for not the cheapest, but not the best food, let's say, because not always price and nutrient quality are necessarily linked. And so when the results came back, and how have you used it, and has it been, because we have been talking about nutrient density a lot actually in this space as one of those potential key unlockers for consumer demand and for people to connect maybe more than they connect necessarily with a label of organic or with a label of fair trade or with certification, etc. How has been your experience with marketing this and using it? It's quite clear on your website. You mostly sell direct. How's the journey been with selling nutrient density? Because you're one of the few people that does, actually.
It's really been great. And the challenge is finding that audience. And they are out there and they're willing to pay. My fruit is expensive. It costs so much more to grow regeneratively. But part of the big expense is the marketing. I did all these economics, and basically my marketing cost is 54%.
Wow.
I mean, the advertising, the website, artwork and the boxing, I include shipping in that because I'm going direct to consumer. I do free shipping, or I started doing it, and that's
not free.
tremendous cost.
Yeah.
No, but it's amazing. So we have reached an audience, and it amazes me. I only had 7,000 pounds of fruit this year. So I shipped 600 boxes, this custom box with all the nutrient density information on it. But we've shipped to 36 states here in the US, all over the country. Almost every state where we could ship, we have shipped. So those people are finding us. If they Google organic citrus or regenerative citrus or nutrient dense citrus, they find us. And then we're pushing out a lot of information to find that audience. So it's customer acquisition. That's a big cost, which kind of breaks my heart too. I wish the cost of the fruit was 20% more than grocery store fruit, but it's more than that. And eventually my production will get a lot higher and my cost of production will come down.
Yeah, because in terms of ramp up, this is only the first harvest, which is like year 3 or 4, I think, of a grove. And so how do you see
Yeah,
that? Like, how
4.
many boxes do you need to ship next year? What are your next years look like?
So it will probably be 4x next
Wow.
year. The trees only 40. Even though I'm in my 4th year, this is another problem. Regenerative grows slower. It just does. Cover crops compete with the crop. I had a trial in my grove, conventional versus regenerative. The conventional trees are double the size and triple the yield this year. So it'll take me a few more years to catch up. I've got a long ways to go. I used the university projections on what my yield should be, and I'm only a fraction. Only 40% of my trees yielded this first year. So I'm going to ramp up the nutrition program, try to bypass the interference from cover crops. There's some complexity. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why the cost of the fruit is more. And I wish, hopefully, when I get to scale and to size. But then there's another large problem. I'm certified organic, which takes 3 years to get, but because of that, I'm not allowed to take my fruit to a packing house. Every fruit we cleaned by hand, every fruit. So it's exhausting, and cleaned it and packed it. There's nothing automated. So if I take my fruit to a packing house, it disqualifies it for organic. And no packing house is willing to become organic certified. They'd have to completely disassemble and sterilize all their equipment every time they ran organic fruit. So that's a snag at least in the U.S. organic system. So if I get the fruit I hope next year, 4 times yield, I'm going to have to build some kind of my own packing line. So then I've got another huge expense of doing that. So eventually I'll have to. So deciding when and how big that needs to be.
And are there like places you can go for inspiration on the regenerative citrus front? Like people you can like to compare notes and to understand like fertility and growth? Like, is it normal what you're seeing or not? Like, or are you like completely pioneering in your area or even in the larger citrus space?
No, the people come to me. So
which is nice, but not, it would be nice to have a few
yeah. It's and I do. There are a few. There's literally a handful. There's a couple of regenerative growers in Florida and a few more in California. And they've had some interesting advice. One advice was they said, don't try to do it from the beginning. Grow the tree conventionally and then convert it to regenerative. And I was too stubborn and decided if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way right from the beginning. And that's why my yields are low. So I could have grown the tree and in 3 years got it into production. And then it had taken another 3 years to convert it back
for
to
organic. Yeah.
So
we're going to see if the 6 years where the two paths will meet.
It's 6 years. Will I catch up? But I was committed. I'm doing it. A lot of my reason is to do it because of the regenerative and improve the nutrient density. I'm excited to next year. I'm expanding this out to 4 farms to compare my growth with. And this is the idea of getting replicated data. If I have regenerative versus 4 conventional farms, then I'll know what their fertility program is, their herbicide program, their tillage. And then I can have more and more confidence about what it is that's making my nutrient dense. So,
and coming back to that, I don't know if it was a moment or over time, but you retired and was still, let's say, in the chemical industry narrative. What made you buy a farm? And then do you remember how the regen piece came about?
My wife asks me every day, why did I buy a farm? I have citrus at home. We just started growing it here in Georgia. There's better varieties, better irrigation systems. So we're a little too far north, but we have some new methods to do it.
To save the tree to save the tree in hard winter. Yeah.
From freezing. Yeah. So there's about 150 growers here. Now, the beauty of it is we escaped the HLB disease, which has devastated Florida. They've lost 80% of their production. 250 packing houses, juice plants. There's only 8 left. And
Wow.
so that industry it's almost gone. And so in Georgia, we don't have the disease yet. The vector, the little insect that carries it, hasn't come this far north. So we have a unique opportunity to grow beautiful, fresh fruit. And so a lot of people, even row crop farmers and vegetable farmers, excited about a new crop to get into it. I was in my ag career, caught that enthusiasm. And I had some trees at home, planted more, and I thought, well, this is fun. So I planted a whole grove. And that's part of the financial challenge. We're starting from scratch. Existing growers are fine. They have the land, crews, equipment, tractors, the wells, the irrigation. We have to irrigate tremendously during a freeze. Every tree has to have constant irrigation all night long. So
that's a technology piece that has changed like in the last decade plus. Like they all have like their micro sprayer underneath the tree. Microjet
underneath the
basically.
Tree, and the nice warm air comes up, water, 62-degree water comes up through the tree and keeps at least the scaffold, the limbs, and the graft alive no matter what. So what it means is drilling the well costs just as much as the land. So our land here that I purchased was $10,000 an acre, but then it costs that much again
to drill
a well to be sufficient volume to protect the trees. So every little block of trees, every field has its own well and irrigation system, and we have to go out all night long and make sure the sprinklers are working. Otherwise, we'll lose a tree.
But it still doesn't explain the regen piece. You could have been a conventional, normal is not the right word, conventional citrus grower, like retirement, quote unquote, hobby. So what happened there?
So the regen is absolutely, once I discovered it, I just thought, when I started to plant trees, I thought, how to do this. I've done some biological research in the chemical industry. I've tested products. I'm a pathologist. I know how to do it. I looked at it because of economic reasons. I thought, get 10 or 20% more for a gain. And then when I started researching it, I literally fell into the whole regenerative world. And I was absolutely overwhelmed because when I got developing my career, that information wasn't there 40 years ago. I think in the last, it's been there a long time, but it's never been accessible. And now with the internet and YouTube and podcasts, you can get an entire education in a year's time. So I spent a year before I ever bought a tree researching every aspect of regenerative agriculture and all the people you mentioned, John Kemp, Lane Ingram, Graham Sate, Australia, and Christine Jones. I listened to 3 or 4 hours a day podcasts, and basically I got another master's degree. Before I ever planted a tree, I inoculated my trees in the greenhouse with microbes before I ever brought them to my farm. So I just became fascinated from day one. And then I immediately started doing analysis of the soil. And I've done DNA analysis of my soil every year from before I planted. And I compared this conventional to regenerative. And you can see the collapse of the soil by doing the DNA analysis. The fungal population was destroyed by the Roundup and the fungicides. And over in my regenerative, I've got 300 or 400 species of really nice, balanced fungal diversity and another 600 or 700 species of bacteria. And the trees are flourishing. I have no disease. growers around me are all spraying fungicides regularly. I don't have many insect problems except for the one that's an invasive insects, meaning there's no natural enemies.
Fire ant, right?
Well, fire ants too. Everybody has fire ants here. Now, this is a leaf miner. It came from China or Korea only 12, 15 years ago. And there's no natural enemies, so it's hard to control. So,
and are you scared for like the insect in Florida? That's because you said that we don't have it yet, so we can do some interesting business, of course, because the industry there has collapsed. But there's always that potential of it moving north or moving in your direction. Is that a constant conversation among growers?
It's constant, and to be honest, I mean, it was part of my job in the chemical industry. I dealt with resistance and how chemical resistance and how the mutation rate in the insects. And this insect, all it has to do is get a mutation that will help it adapt to colder climates. Just one mutation and it'll come to Georgia. So yeah, it'll be here. So again, my theory is that my trees are going to be extremely healthy. And there are actually a few regenerative people in Florida that are overcoming HOB, the greening disease, with soil health. And so that's going to be my approach is I believe that I'll be in better position than most of the growers. If they're having to apply fungicides constantly now, when HLB gets here, they're going to be devastated. So it takes 3 or 4 or 5 years to kill a tree, but it does. And the production comes down constantly and the fruit is terrible. It's misshapen and bitter. So I hope, I mean, that would be the grand, I even originally thought if I can prove that regenerative has this health impact, then maybe people in Florida with HLB that have been so devastated it would influence them to make soil health changes. And maybe that's more of a dream. Huge growers, the growers there are 1,000 acres. And I do get calls. They're interested. I did a podcast, a webinar for 36 growers in Egypt that were just interested. And I asked the organizer, I said, how will they understand my explanations? He said, oh yeah, AI translates everything you say. You don't have to worry. They'll hear.
Yeah, we have to check that sometimes. We see that as well. But yeah,
well,
there's some hallucination. Yeah, but Herb told us to do this. We're like, no, like he said something.
That's right. No, the computer, maybe. So.
But it's fascinating, that knowledge piece that just shares and flies and spreads and somehow doesn't reach necessarily, let's say, your former colleagues or other people in like, do you see any cracks in that wall of the ag chem industry? Because so much of this knowledge is out there, even though it's in weird forms, and you got a master degree basically for a year listening to podcasts and going deep in Joan Kemp's blogs and books. But do you see that knowledge is starting to get over it or under the wall or through the wall?
It's not. It's very frustrating. I can remember being in that, and I had huge amounts of almost unlimited funding resources to do research, to promote that research, to get university professors to also do the research, to give credibility to what we were developing and selling. And it's just it's almost silence about regenerative. This Florida situation is interesting because there's been $1.4 billion spent to try to solve HLB, and they have no solution. There's the most recent solution I heard yesterday was they're going to put the BT gene in citrus. That is the absolute most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Number one, it'll take 8 years, maybe 10 years 5 years to insert the gene, 5 years to grow the trees. And then it'll only take 2 years for.
So just in layman terms, sorry, what does it mean? Like, is it CRISPR, gene editing? What are they planning to put in this?
They're going to they'll probably use CRISPR to insert the BT gene, just like it's in corn and soybeans. And that was one of the big claims is citrus is GMO free. There's no GMO citrus. Well, they want to make a GMO citrus, but it'll only take 2 years for the insect to get resistance. In cotton, they're already on their third BTG. So they put a gene in, it takes 5 years, and within 2 years, the insect, and everybody plants it, and it works great for 1 year, and then it's less and less. And then they insert a second gene, and now they've inserted a third gene. It's the same with Roundup resistance. They put in the gene. Eventually, the weeds develop resistance, and then they put in a second gene. They call it stacking. So they stack the genes. But in citrus, it's so hard because we have to grow the tree. They can insert
it's not an annual, yeah.
No, it's not an annual. So, and it's highly regulated. Growing the trees, it can only legally be done in an exclusion greenhouse that has no insects coming into it. So it's a real slow process. Anyway,
the latest
that's the mindset
trick.
of
the mindset. Wow.
Yeah, that's the mindset of the industry. I just absolutely was dumbfounded that the University of Florida, that's their new solution, is a BTG, and it will last exactly 2 years. And it's no solution. So just realizing that regenerative is, the science is advancing very quickly. And it's exciting. And it's exciting for me just to be a tiny part of that as a kind of citizen scientist. I don't know what we call ourselves. I hope. But there is a lot of interest. When I've done the analysis and found that it was 8 times more nutritious, that has finally caught some attention. There are people that are, to be honest, we're fascinated by that. And to say that, okay, you could eat 8 oranges or you could eat 1 of mine.
That's suddenly the price difference is the price difference is not.
That's right.
It's super cheap. Or we have the solution. It's cheap.
Yeah. The people that are buying the fruit, I do get wonderful feedback. People are so excited.
It must taste amazing as well, just to make the connection, flavor and nutrient density. Yeah.
Taste is unbelievable. And we've done taste tests side by side. And it's a very interesting. I did a taste test with a taste specialist. And if you taste the nutrient dense fruit first, the flavor is explosive. It literally goes up through your sinuses and out the top of your head. And then if you eat the conventional fruit second, you can't taste it. Your taste buds are completely occupied. And you can do it in reverse, and you taste the conventional one. Tastes like grapefruit. It's pretty good. Yeah, the flavors. Unbelievable. Which flavor is nutrition? Until the public realizes that. We all complain. We go to the grocery store. Europeans, when they come to America, they're disgusted. Disgusted by it.
You've worked in Europe a lot, right? In your career as well.
I lived in France for 1.5 years, yeah. And, yes, food is incredible, produce. But our produce has no flavor. And then when you eat something that's really good, and I think organic is better, and I think regenerative is just off the charts because it's the microbes and the nutrition that's there. So it's going to take a while to educate the public and to help them realize.
Yeah, but it seems like you're hitting
diseases.
A nerve. Like you're with only 600 boxes. It's still a lot by hand, of course, all cleaned by hand and packed by hand. But that's still significant. And the direct-to-consumer model isn't easy at all. We've seen it with Will Harris, which is practically, it's 80 miles, but it's your neighbor when we had him on the show. But it is one of the ways to capture some of that premium or to at least explain that as well, because you can put something in the box, you can design the box and you can have that conversation, and the freshness of course helps as well. And so what is that next step in terms of you're growing the production, you need to bring this to some kind of break even as well, because this is a retirement plan, but of course you are not able to invest endlessly into this. Like, what excites you in that over the next years? There are too many things to mention, but just as you're wrapping up this season, what's next for you?
So the excitement, to be honest with you, is doing what we're doing today. So as people become interested, I feel a bit like what Will Harris has done. He's become a national hero. He's on the Joe Rogan show. He's on CNN.
Yeah, I didn't want to compare us. Like, you're on our podcast, and we have also listeners, but not the same level. And we can fly you to a studio, but maybe we will in the future.
But it's
no, I know it's telling.
Everything
it's
is
telling.
important.
I know. Yeah.
And somebody listens to your podcast. To me, I put data and information on LinkedIn, and so it's more of research and professionals and science people, and I'm actually trying to reach the medical community. Food as medicine is an exploding market. So any place I can do a talk, communicate, write an article, get published, that's actually become more of a passion. I think selling my crop will be a product of that. So
a brand. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and a personal brand. But at the end of the day, when I retire again, I want to leave the industry and feel like maybe I made a little bit of difference, and that somebody's health out there was changed. That a mother who has a child that has autism or ADHD or something, they changed diet and it made a difference. I have a 12 grandson who has ADHD. Just a month ago, they took him off artificial colorings, and his ADHD has completely calmed down. So we're just learning.
Mm-hmm.
The health crisis here is, we now say 60% of people are overweight, 40% are obese.
Yeah, it's difficult to fathom those numbers, I think, when you see or hear them, but just the size. And just on the citrus side of things, walk us through, why are citrus so healthy? Of course, regeneratively grown way better. Like, what's the health package like of citrus?
Yeah, so besides the vitamins, which everybody knows vitamin C, and that's what they all talk to me about, all the vitamins are increased, some. But it's the health things, carotenoids, flavonoids, phytoalexins. Citrus have 90 flavonoids. The general population doesn't even know what that is, but almost all of them are antioxidants. They're anti-inflammatory, and then they have specific roles. One might help your immune system. One is the carotenoids all help vision. We talked about lycopene. The red coloring in my red grapefruit is totally...
Yeah, you shared that on LinkedIn. I will try to find a post for that and put it. But what's lycopene? I already forgot the name.
Lycopene. Yeah,
sorry.
It's due to the red color. So pink and red grapefruit all have lycopene. I was actually on lycopene when I Googled it. AI is a great help now. I'm in the Grove and went on ChatGPT and I said, causes the red color in my grapefruit. They're beautiful. They're so bright red. And it came back and said lycopene. And I said, you got to be kidding. I buy lycopene at the nutrition store because my PSA numbers were elevated. So for a month, I'd been taking lycopene. That's prostate when you get to be my age. And I thought, all I need to do is eat a grapefruit. And it's probably got a natural version that's better than what I'm buying. And it's probably 5 times more concentrated than anything I can buy in the store. So when people...
That was a food as medicine moment in the Grove. Yeah.
That was my food as medicine. Yeah, that's right. On ChatGPT, I had and I think people are going to start becoming aware, waking. So education has to be what's significant. That's the way we're going to change the industry.
And speaking of another industry that we often talk about and talk to and talk with, let's say, and communicate with, which is the financial space, which is people investing their own money, but also people investing other people's money. And of course, many are exposed to food and agriculture and are interested. Let's say we do this in a theater in Georgia. I don't know what the financial heart is called or which city it is, but let's say we do it in a live setting and we have, of course, an amazing meal, a lot of citrus. and we do the session live on stage, what would be your main message to the financial world? Like one seed you would like to plant that they remember, because people forget also the next day. Like what would be the main message you would like people to go home with from an evening we do live in front of them?
When I'm working in the Grove, this occurred to me one day. I said, people spend a huge fraction of their income on medical health. And yet they fight for the absolute cheapest food they can find. And so I just thought, and I started putting this on my social media, why pay a doctor when you can pay a farmer? We want the farmer to get nothing. By the time it goes through several hands and gets to the grocery store and the price is beat down. So we have the cheapest food supply anywhere, especially here in America. We have the lowest percentage of our disposable income that we pay for food. It's 10 or 11%. But the food it's nutritious. It's not worth anything. That's basically what I've found out. We've created this food that's so industrialized. It's shipped all around the country. We buy most of our produce from California. It takes 7 days to ship it to the East Coast. So if we would change our mindset, and that's the financial piece of it, if people were willing to pay for better food so that people could grow it nutritionally, then that is the bottom line.
Because you think the market would be there if your 36 states that you now ship to, let's say they start outgrowing you, in a sense, they start out asking you or demanding you for more. Would you be relatively, nothing is easy, I'm doing air quotes here for people listening, find others nearby to, like, would other growers be interested? Of course, you need a packing line, there needs to be some infrastructure, but once you have that established in a couple of years, do you think growers would be easily, in the citrus world, be easily convinced when the market is there to start converting?
Citrus is difficult because can only grow in a few southern states. But I think the impact needs to be, and I hope my message gets to people. They ask me online, people that buy my fruit say, what can I do to eat better? And I said, just go to a farmer's market. Yeah, you can buy organic in the grocery store and it's better. But when you go to a farmer's market, from the farmer, and growers, the people getting into agriculture, a lot of them are doing it on a small scale, and we call them market gardeners. And they're not just doing regenerative. Maybe they say that when they're at a farmer's market. They're really restoring the soil. They're all regenerative. And they're applying the right things, microbes and compost and manure and all those things.
They need all the support we can give them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they need to charge more for their food. And it may be, even if it's double, but if the nutritional value is 5 times what somebody can get, I guarantee it's 5 times what they can get at the grocery store, especially off the conventional. So that's what people need to do everywhere. And I think our U.S. system is so decentralized. I think in Europe, it's common to buy local. When we lived in France, we walked to the market, we walked to the bakery, and we bought flowers every Saturday from the...
Was that difficult or interesting because you were living in France, working for a large ag industry, to combine that with buying the most tastiest fruit you could find, or fruits and baguettes and bread and things like that? How did that connect in your head?
Well, I didn't realize it at the time. I was amazed by the lifestyle. Immediately we realized, and this is strange for an American to say, the quality of life was better. The European quality, at least in France, the quality of life was better than in the States. And I'm just not... the appreciation of food, the appreciation of everything, music, language, dress, leisure time, the value of family, all those things. Now, this was a while ago. This was 30 years ago. Maybe it's changing.
It's changing, but I think it's still, it's still there, but yeah.
We were amazed as Americans to go live in this European setting. I said, well, this is the way it was in America 30 years ago. And what a wonderful quality of life. Just the daily appreciation of things, which included food. Food was a huge part of that. And they used to ask me, is it true that Americans, you eat in your car? It's true. Well, we consume half of our food now while we're driving because we're in a rush. We drive through everywhere and we go to the fast food that's the fastest. It's terrible.
And we're laughing,
it's a
but
mindset.
Not funny. Yeah.
No, it's not funny. And it's the fastest and the cheapest. And so everybody's sick. We have one of the highest death rates to coronavirus when it came, because everybody has predisposed conditions. So it's our health crisis that's going to drive the realization that it starts with our food, and that will push all the way down to the farmers. It'll start with small farmers who are willing, either starting or changing, to get into and discover regenerative. And once they do, and then to find out that there's a market for it. So
that's where we come in. Like, this is a friend of the show, Christian, I don't know if I'm calling him out now, but likes to say, like, in the regen spaces or in like food system and systems change circles, like, okay, who's buying organic here and who's buying regen organic or who's buying direct from farmers? They know. And we're always surprised how few hands go up, like 100%. Like, who, in a sense, like, who's buying 100%? Like, from the people that can absolutely afford it, that have not the time, but should have the time to search and know which ones to select, etc. Because not all market gardens and not all farmers markets are great. But if we don't lead this and put extra effort, only selfishly for your own health and for everything else, like, who else is going to do it? And of course, not everyone can afford. We know that, but looking at the current market, there's a much bigger group that should know better and afford more in terms of food and egg. And yeah, if it's 5 times as much, it's actually a really good deal. Just very practically.
Then it's a good deal. And when the people that can afford it begin buying it, the cost will come down and the availability will go up. One farmer's market too far away, there's one guy who has incredible regenerative food, and he brings 3 or 4 times more than any other seller at this farmer's market, and he sells out in a couple hours. Another guy outside Atlanta that's become a good friend. These are vegetable guys they're the regenerative community that I have. He sells only to chefs in Atlanta, the gourmet chefs. And he posts his produce every Tuesday morning, and he sells out within an hour. It's the demand for good food is there.
Luckily, it's there, yeah.
Yeah, luckily. And the sad thing is, it's almost to the point that people have to become sick, chronically ill before they realize that, when they research it, they find out, I can actually turn this around by the food I eat. The industry that's exploding right now at USDA can't, they try to stop it, is raw milk. All these childhood diseases being completely reversed by people finding raw milk. It's almost illegal to buy it.
Yeah,
it's labeled as for pet consumption.
And boil it first. Very important. Yeah.
Mothers drive 50 miles to buy the raw milk.
Wow.
Because it solves all their children's allergies, the ADHD, even extreme cases of autism things are being impacted just by getting the microbes back that we've been missing.
In our gut
everything
system.
We eat has been sterilized, boiled, and grown in atrocious conditions.
And if we flip the conversation or the table setting, or I never know how to ask this question, but if you're on the other side of the table, that's a better way, and you are on the investor side. So let's say we usually like to say, with all the inflation and billions thrown around, like the $1 billion question, maybe we have to update it to 10 billion. But let's say you have a crazy amount of money, $1 billion to put to work. Could be long-term, could be shorter term. I don't need to know exact dollar amounts, obviously. We're not giving investment advice, but I'm interested, what would you focus on? Is it Would you buy a lot of land in Florida, or would you focus it on research, or would you focus it on technology, or what would be your focus?
I think the things that people are looking for, there are so many people want to get into this and want to get a start. If they would provide some type of grant opportunity or funding, even low interest loans that people want to.
You could do that. You're $1 billion. You can do it.
Yeah. If you had a bill, that's how you would impact. With $1 billion, you could help 200 or 300 small farm startups. And there could be, the ultimate would be some philanthropy, but even investing in loans with the realization that in agriculture, it's not, you don't get the return the next year. For somebody starting up, it'll take them 2 years or 3 years.
But that's okay.
Loans that can help somebody 2 and 3 years out, that's where people can make an impact. Oh my goodness. They could start hundreds of farms that would feed tens of thousands of people, and that would add momentum to this movement. It's surprising how many people are interested in getting into this.
Do you get a lot of visitors on the farm as well? And technology. What excites you about technology? We're in an age where AI is exploding, exponential. Solar is getting cheaper every second. Robotics are coming. But when you say technology, what excites you?
To me, the technology is the understanding of microbial life. And so sometimes what I call technology might even be going back to what our grandfathers did 100 years ago. So I buy compost and make compost tea. But the technology side of it is now I can measure. I have a microscope on my farm, and when everything I make, then I take it and I look at it in the microscope and make sure it's alive. And then when I put it on the soil, I can start taking measurements, Rick's measurements. I have an electrical conductivity meter that's so simple. And I put it in the soil and I can tell if the microbes are active. And then if I really want to know, I can spend some more money and do DNA analysis and find out what's really there. And I can watch the microbes population build over time. So that's the technology on my side that I'm using to prove that some of these ancient techniques, they were brilliant. It's returning back to some older practices, compost. And there are new things. Recently, I saw a regenerative ad that a guy said robots in the field doing all the weeding are going to change.
Chris Bauer or Clint Bauer, I think. Yeah, there's a...
Yeah, and I thought, well, yeah, I fear all of a sudden I see Big Ag says, oh yeah, let's do robots. And now everybody needs 100 robots. And now I'm looking into buying a drone because I can fly my grove, send the pictures to an analytical group, and AI can tell me the nutritional needs of every single tree. And so I can spot a tree that's got this, it doesn't even cost money. I can spot a tree now that has a nutrition problem, and I can go out there and help that tree out so that it then won't get attacked by insects or diseases. So there's some neat technology. Simple works, just basic things. Cover crops. Oh my!
Tell us about your cover crops, because most of this to paint a picture of. Take us. This is an audio medium. We're recording the video as well, but we're not in the field. Just take us to your grove, because you said the cover crops look amazing now, and to, let's say, a conventional one. Just to paint us a picture visually of how it feels, smells, and what we would see if we would all be there. That's all listening now.
So, and I could send you a picture. I don't know if that would.
Please do. Yeah.
I plant 10 species in the spring and then 10 more in the fall. Right now, it's quickly becoming knee deep, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I'll have 3 kinds of clover, hairy vetch, Austrian winter pea. Those are all legumes. So all 3 of those produce nitrogen. I'm pulling nitrogen out of the air all the time, feeding it to the trees, but really feeding the microbes. Every plant secretes 40% of all of its sugars and nutrients to feed microbes. That's the way the It's the way God designed the world. The trees in the forest are fed by the microbes. They don't get fertilizer. So then I have a mix, a blend. I've got ryegrass and oats, and then some great big daikon radish, turnips and kale. Although you get the diversity.
Mhm.
Everyone secretes is looking for a different microbe. So I'm building the diversity. And then in the summertime, it's harder. So I have to use a no-till seeder. Got sun hemp, these beautiful yellow blooms that are head high. But it's everyone that comes to my grove, they say the same thing. We get out there. The first thing is they don't want to leave. And then they all say, it's so peaceful out here. There's turkeys that have nests in my grove in the wintertime. So there's always at least 3 nests of turkeys. So in the spring, I have all these baby turkeys running around. The rabbits are everywhere. Beneficial insects. There's bees and spiders and all kinds of beneficial things. It's its own ecosystem, and it gets better. It just gets better every year.
And I'm scared to
Amazing,
ask,
and I'm hoping that,
but what does a conventional grove look like now? We're recording this in February 2025. Like like at this point in the season compared to yours?
To me, it's really sad. It's like a field when you drive by on the road and they've tilled it and it's just dirt, which the sun is beating. The ultraviolet is just, so the conventional grove, they're spraying this big round-up strip, 12 feet wide under the trees. It allows all the fertilizer to go straight to the tree. There's no competition, but the soil is rock hard and you can really penetrate it to get a soil sample. In the middles might be weeds, it might be grass, but I use a rod called a penetrometer, and it has a little pressure gauge on top, and you push it down with 200 pounds of pressure. So I get excited. I talk with my hands.
You push it down.
In a conventional grove, it goes in 3 inches, 4 inches. In mine, the ground is spongy. When you walk across it, you can feel it move. And when I push it in, it goes all the way to the handles. Just no resistance, which it's root systems. It's all the cover crop roots. It's my tree roots. I took samples this week, soil samples in a conventional grove, doing my comparison for nutrient density. In the top 4 inches, there was no tree roots. And I thought, I can't wait till I get to my grove. In my grove, the tree roots are immense in the top 4 inches. Citrus roots go straight out. And I thought, it's just amazing. The tree loves the soil, and it's completely different. The organic matter in my grove has almost doubled in 4 years. We have real sandy soil, but I almost doubled the organic matter, which is feeding the microbes, feeding the tree. It's the basis for the whole system. So it's exciting just to go out there.
And if you visit these conventional groves, maybe of like friends or these colleagues, like, does it ever itch you of what you could do with an already established one? Like what I could do in a few years here just to turn things around?
I talked to him about it. And as soon as you start talking about things that are going to be either complicated or it takes some labor to manage cover crops. You put it out, you have to clear around the irrigation and a little bit around the tree. And they're fascinated by the idea of their fruit being better. Even the groves that I've tested, and I've showed them, look at the results. And they're interested initially, but it just seems to them like a different system. Maybe it's because of my science background and I understand the microbes and what they're doing. It's just fascinating to me, and I see the value in it. So I hope I can explain that simply enough to people to make an impact.
And are you tempted to, let's say you still had $1 billion to buy a traditional or conventional grove and turn it around yourself just to see how fast things can move if you don't have to start from scratch?
Yeah, absolutely. even to be in Florida and to buy a sick grove and find out how quickly I might turn it around with inoculants and compost and cover crops and organic nutrition. I feed the microbes, hydrolysate, molasses, humic acid, kelp. That's what
They do
that's what
fine
goes through
dining,
my
basically.
irrigation.
Yeah.
It is. It's fine dining. The tree doesn't need any nutrition during the wintertime, but the microbes still do. So I'm still feeding microbes all winter and inoculating and adding more. So it's an amazing world out there that the ecosystem is so interconnected, and it's just alive, and it's supporting that tree. And to realize that the fruit that comes off of it, the taste and the nutrition is just unbelievable. And to think that people are missing out on that.
And to ask a question which is inspired by John Kempf, and I know you work with the company, is what do you believe to be true about regenerative agriculture that others don't believe to be true? This is inspired by a question he always asks, what do you believe to be true about agriculture? But I would like to ask it specifically on regen. What do you believe to be true about regen that others don't?
When people talk about nutrient density, I think that's the ultimate conclusion. I believe, and this is what I'd love to try to prove, that nutrient density is completely a result of the microbial population in the soil, the relationship with whatever we're growing. That's the link I'm passionate about trying to prove. I hear people talking about goals or sustainability and let's sequester carbon. These things are all interesting, and it'll be a side effect. What we need is healthy food. That's what regenerative is about. It's growing healthy food, restoring our food so that we can restore our health. It's the only solution that we've got right now.
And as a final question, which usually leads to potentially another question, but if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing overnight, so you're no longer in charge of the $1 billion fund, but you can change one thing and one thing only, what would it be?
It would be to open up people's eyes, educating the public. We hope we've got the last 3 or 4 weeks of a new administration have been very interesting. And
to say the least.
To say the least. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. he's willing to expose the fallacies in our healthcare system. And he's made it his life work. And I think that exposure of what has kept everything secret and pushed out medicines, and we're a medicated society. I hope that changes, and I see glimmers of that changing, and that quickly relate to our food system. And people will realize that buy that good produce instead of taking 15 medications every.
I think it's a perfect way to wrap up this conversation. I want to thank you so much for the work you do, first of all, for quite a radical retirement shift that most people, I don't know, but let's say go and play golf or do other things. This is, let's say, reinventing our industry and playing a role in that. And I don't think it's a tiny role. Plus, being very vocal about it and having proper research in place is not a tiny feat. I think your wife can attest to that. And thank you for coming here to talk about it and to share, and for going through the trouble of filming it as well. And I want to thank you so much for a fascinating conversation.
Thank you much. Enjoyed it immensely. Thank you, Koen.
Thank you for listening all the way to the end. For show notes and links discussed, check out our website, investinginregenerativeagriculture.com/posts. If you like this episode, why not share it with a friend? And get in touch with us on social media, our website, or via the Spotify app, and tell us what you liked most. And give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your podcast player. That really, really helps us. Thanks again, and see you next time.